Anybody online?
No, I just forgot to unmute it and start the video. I'm good.
That's pretty good. Last public works meeting, I realized it like half an hour in.
So, number 6, discussion and possible action, Kennedy Park Master Plan.
So, some of you are probably wondering why it's back here. The park committee did approve the current master plan as drafted at our October meeting. It did go to the village board in November, which they deferred any action on it. Part of it was because I was not there. I was pretty ill. I was hoping to be on Zoom, but I didn't want to like run out during my part of it because things were so bad. So they deferred action on it, and I thought, why not bring it back to the park committee? Maybe we can answer some of the questions, discuss some of the items that came up during the village board meeting. Of course, I wasn't there, so I don't have firsthand information on what was discussed there. So I brought back both the master plans again. I did hear a few comments staff shared with me regarding it, but just have another look at the plans. And also you did not get to see the cost estimates. So I know that was some of the discussion, some of the costs that came up in there. One of the big things when you're looking at these plans though is this the vision for that specific park for developing it in 10, 15, 20 years? Is that the direction the park should go? You know, we're not looking at developing it next year. You know, it could be 5 years, we could do one phase. That's another discussion we had where, you know, Kennedy is definitely going to be a phased plan. Because otherwise you can't just blow up the park and not use it for 2 years. You know, at least a year of construction, another year of growth for grass, etc. And just basically have nothing taking place. So when we looked at the plan, we looked at the best plan for phasing the project also. So we know there'll be fundraising grants, etc. for the development of Kennedy in specific for that. You know, we are more grant eligible for Prohaska just due to the passive use versus the active use because there is, you know, land water conservation funds available. There are rivers and trails grants available also, which are more directed at passive use type items. So there'd be more grant eligibility for them. Also the support features, which are, you know, restrooms, shelters, stuff like that for the uses of the park. Where we know there's not grant funds available for play structures, baseball fields, you know, the more active type use. So the first one we would be looking at would be the Kennedy Park Master Plan. And I'm not sure exactly the questions that came out of there, with the exception of that the cost estimate is pretty high. You know, mobilization costs for Kennedy Park are $750,000. They're like, how could that be that high? Well, you understand if it's phased, you're gonna have mobilization costs for how long does it take us to build it? 5 years. So you have mobilization costs for multiple contractors over, you know, year 2024, 25, 28, 30. So you're gonna have mobilization costs for a contractor or multiple contractors each time versus one time. I talked to the consultant about it and he's like, that number is high, but you understand this is a phased project that could take 10, 15, 20 years to build. And they don't want to necessarily give you 2023 numbers on everything because we know the prices are never going to go down. So it'd be nice if they did, but so, you know, they don't want to just give you the current numbers. They want to give you future projected numbers too, because you take this cost estimate, you go fundraise and you raise funds for an $11 million project, which is what the cost of the current Wisconsin Rapids, they just did 4-field complex, was around $11 million. And that's just 4 fields. This came in at, you know, 15 million plus. But you don't want to go and cost or fundraise for an $11 million project. And then once you get the 11 million raised, you bid it out, well, it's 15 or 16 million. I mean, it's no different than, you know, the Green Neck Turner Center. It progressed through multiple phases. First it was a $13 million dome, and then it went up to 15, and it went to 20 plus, and now it's at 37 million. You know, That's a big difference from where they started at, like 13 million originally. So fortunately, they're able to adjust, and they had a threshold of reaching, I think it was 75% funding before they could actually start doing anything. So you want to have your numbers at least to go with, how long it would take you to develop. But the biggest question is this direction Kennedy Park should be going? I mean, we've been talking about this since March is when we started this process. We had public meetings for user groups and the public in general. We did online surveys. The feedback we got, we know the user groups were kind of skewed because we had baseball, softball, the school district. So they definitely skewed it, but Kennedy Park is a baseball complex right now. So, do we want to completely change the use, or do we want to develop it to maximize the space and allow it to be, the generator that we feel like it could be?
The tournament style.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at Green Tech Turner, and we're always talking about what's this bringing to the area. If this gets developed, what will this bring to the area? There are organizations out there, and Michael and I just talked about this, that they ran one of the tournaments in Minocqua this year. It's an outside organization. It was not Minocqua Baseball that ran it. They run their own tournament Memorial Day weekend, and then they had our outside organization come in and ran the second term. So they're looking for venues to host tournaments, which they would pay you for use of the fields, maintenance, etc. So, is that a route we want to go? We know this number is huge. I mean, you talk about this building and it's almost $16 million, and you talk about building a park for basically the same price. It's a lot, understand it, but really the goal is, it may not be built this way, but is this the direction that the park should be going?
I mean, one other thing too, in the cost estimate, there's like 1.5 million just in earthwork and demo. Those are things we could do with our own staff if we chose to do that. Like, as Sean pointed out, it's really to help get that fundraising number out there. So if baseball, softball, the school district, whoever wants to start raising funds, they've got a number to go towards, and hopefully it's on the high end, so they're not coming back again for 2, 3, 4 more million. And we had 3 tournaments this past summer. Half the teams were from out of town, had hotel stays. So that's what 10 teams per age group, so 30 teams total. So I'd say 15 teams each tournament, 10 kids per team. So that's, if that was 3 weekends out of the summer, if we've got, 12 weekends out of the summer, if softball can use it, that easily doubles the number of tournaments right there that you hold. So
I mean, and that was something new. We had the youth softball organization come in, which they were kind of late in this whole process because they just heard about it. They lost the field at senior high due to the Green Neck Turner Center. But they're also looking to host tournaments, which they currently don't do, just due to what they are allowed to do on school property. And you hate to say it the way they said it, but we could sell alcohol at the Kennedy Park. But they could host obviously a larger tournament when you have more fields available too. So it wouldn't mean that they wouldn't use school fields also, because DCF's youth baseball uses school fields. They've used Simon Field, they've used the field at junior high for their tournaments. It's just maximizing the space in close proximity too, because as soon as you start shipping people all over, you may be losing them from your area too. So if you're sending them up to Weston to play a couple games, or you're sending them to Cronowet or Rothschild, you might be losing them from the area. But I think that there are other costs in here that definitely could be cut. Michael pointed out one, which is the excavating costs, but they specified black vinyl fencing on all the fields. If you went with traditional chain link fence, obviously you're going to reduce costs there. So there are some other items as far as like reducing the costs, but like I said, the big question is this the direction that Kennedy Park should be going?
I believe so.
I think so.
we've outgrown what we have here. And I don't know if you've been to any other tournament style fields, but ours doesn't even compare. I mean, we definitely need some updates. Even invite, other teams in. We don't have, the restrooms, we don't have concessions, we don't have shade, we don't have walking trails, we don't have any of that right now. So.
And
I
that's
feel
one of
like
the
we're
things.
losing out in that area because we don't have a facility to hold that many people.
Right, and that's one of the things where, converting like Diamond 2 to 50/70 this year. Because we weren't able to draw the teams from the Valley or Madison, Milwaukee, because they didn't play on 46-60 fields, which is 46 pitching, 60 bases. So convert Diamond 2 to a 50/70, which is good for the 11 and 12-year-olds. It also gives them a transition from the 9 and 10s, which play 46-60 up to 50/70. But then you can draw fields from those areas where that's all they play. They don't want them to play on a shorter field. That's just changing the baselines and the pitching rubber. So, Diamond 2 was converted to that this year. It was a relatively cheap project. I mean, I think league spent less than $4,000 on the project as far as converting it. So now we have double sets of anchors. We still have the 60-foot and we have 70-foot bases, and we also have pitching rubber stanchions where you can change it out from 46 to 50. So you can still play both age groups. So if you have, when you host a tournament for just 9s and 10s, which that's how TCRS runs their tournaments, they'll do the 9s and 11s, or they'll do, the odd ages, and then they'll do the even ages. You can play either length field, as far as that. So I know Trustee Zagami was one of them that had concerns with the costs. He thought it was extremely too high as far as that. So I wanted to explain what I talked about with the consultant, and then just, talking about 2023 numbers versus future. So, and it is just a cost estimate. Might not be our true cost, but they are basing it on what they're currently seeing, because they do bid projects out. They do, construction management. They just recently bid out playground projects. That's where I got our lineal foot number for our playground project order. They just bid it out. He gave me the lineal foot price that they bid in their bid document. Then the price came in at $19 per lineal foot, less than what they had in their bid document. But of course, you want to have that higher number there because concrete prices jumped $40+ a yard this year alone. This is the last order we are aware of that our personal individual was $186 a yard. It was $145 at the beginning of the summer, and that's just in a few months span. So of course, the more you use, the cheaper you get it. If you're a contractor, you're gonna get it cheaper than a homeowner just buying 4 yards for a patio. So is there any concerns with the cost estimate, the park plan that we should talk about with the consultant before I bring it back to the board?
I guess, I'm not happy with the price, don't get me wrong, but my question is more, is this the Kennedy Park going to be more of the, let's get going on it instead of, I think it's an important.
Well, for the youth baseball, softball, school district, this is what they need. They want to start their fundraising. Like literally, you have a plan, you have a cost estimate, we have a goal, we have something that we can present to foundations, apply for grants. This is what they need. This is kind of what preempted the whole plan, was them coming in and us saying, well, we need traffic flow patterns, and we need, how many people are you gonna have, and and this is a village project, the master plan is. It wasn't a youth baseball project. It was definitely something that we needed to undertake because most of our park development has been based on, hey, we got money, we want to do this, where are we gonna put it? And we didn't, proper space planning, maximizing your use. That wasn't our goal when we added those features. We basically made our parks work with whatever the current need was. Based on, instead of maximizing space, building it so we can do that. This utilizes all the space, obviously. But it also allows us to build 2 plus almost 3 fields. While the current fields are still being used, so it doesn't completely shut you down.
What my concern is, if we approve the master plan on Kennedy Park, that we get moving on it instead of waiting.
We put a shovel in the ground, if you is what she's saying.
Well,
I mean, it's the need is
Yeah.
there now.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and if we got this plan, it isn't long before pretty soon that plan is obsolete.
Right.
So, or they come up with some new baselines or something, I don't know.
As we know, these projects take time,
Right,
I mean, because if we fundraise for it, and then you set a goal of where you want to be for fundraising before you would start, say, putting it out for design. Which you need, the architecture, engineering plans, et cetera, because this is a plan, but it's not, you can't build off of this plan.
right.
You need
But
the
yeah,
actual plan.
I'm just,
And then we also talk about like a pro forma, so your maintenance costs, if it's gonna be additional staffing, et cetera. We talked about, maintenance agreements with the leagues, the user groups, so they're committed too. I mean, yes, they may go out there and fundraise $10 million to build this. But how are you gonna help offset the annual costs?
Right.
There's depreciation, there would be a replacement, I mean, you're putting, artificial turf it, we know that 10 to 12 year lifespan. So we would want to obviously prepare for that. And, is a maintenance agreement, I mean, the league, if we have a maintenance agreement with the league, it wouldn't change as their officers in their league change.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we have a 20-year agreement, and then the next president comes along and says, yeah, we're not gonna play again anymore. No, it's not happening. If they have an agreement with us, they're gonna utilize it. If it's a $10,000 a year maintenance agreement, that's what their goal would be to fundraise for.
Right.
Well,
And
I
I'm
mean, in all those tournaments, I don't think you really even have to, that won't even be an issue because.
right, but
Tournament
we
fees.
have buy-in from everybody at that point, versus now, their investment is, hey, what improvements do we want to do this year? And they've been doing a ton, but it's not like a set goal, like this year they did, $4,000 for the infield at Diamond 2. But
Yeah, but I think also, I think youth baseball has shown over a long span of time that they continue to have interest and they are able to fundraise and rally their troops, so to speak, to support things. But I think there's a kind of a line between how much effort are they willing to put in if they don't see a plan at the end, why are you dumping money into something that you're not really sure is gonna be there? Or, the village isn't
right,
certain that we're gonna continue to improve this, so I think if we have this plan, that would make their buy-in even more, because they have, look at the plan, like, this is what we want, right?
yeah, and the goal could be, building the first 2 diamonds that could be built without stopping everything that's currently going on there.
well, that's kind of what.
You know what I mean?
think,
So if you have a
piece by piece, done.
$3 or $4 million investment to build 2 fields, that would be their first goal. You
Yeah.
reach that, we could build those 2 fields and then continue fundraising for future.
Which,
Yeah.
which 2 fields, the softball field?
It would be
Multi-use
these
field.
2 right here,
Oh,
that are both artificial. So both these can be built right now,
oh, I see.
that don't interfere with the existing 3 that are up here.
The one within the hill,
Yep.
and then the
And
one.
the one here, that would be over the top of the existing soccer field area.
Okay, and they also, Rutler also mentioned, doing the concessions right away too. right?
Concessions here.
Right, so just like straight down the middle, I guess.
Right.
Did you use the numbers? Is it field 4 and 5?
Correct.
It'll be
Okay.
4 and 5, yes.
Just want to make sure I'm.
Yeah, that concessions building might be in an existing field. That in the big field slightly.
And then possibly, update the restrooms right away, the existing
Correct.
restrooms.
Yeah.
That would be, first stage as well.
Yeah,
And that, item 6 is a restroom and concessions.
So how do we go about, totaling like those areas we just?
So they're
talked
broken
about?
down in the estimate
Right,
by
okay.
each field,
And then
so you can actually get a cost from that.
From there.
As far as like breaking down each item. You know, like baseball field number one is, 1.4. 1.4, softball field number one is 641,000. Number two is 808,000. Three is 921,000. So I mean, we do have, a projected estimate for them broken apart. Because when we met with them, we knew that, like I said, just blowing up the entire park, shutting down baseball, you're gonna lose your 600 kids that are playing right now. You're gonna lose baseball in the area, which would kill the program at school too, if we did that. So we wanna keep them obviously playing. And with the expansion of, the school district needing a softball field, also needing a large diamond, youth softball interested in using it. They did project putting lights on some of the fields too, which is a huge expense. But you can play multiple games per night versus now you're playing one game per night.
You brought it up a couple times, and I know that they're our district or whatever, school district, but would they be charged for using this? Some maintenance on them or whatever?
I imagine we would do an annual maintenance agreement with them too.
Because I mean, I know.
I mean, they charge for their facilities right now.
Okay.
They do use Kennedy right now. They used to use Kennedy for, that used to be the varsity and JV soccer fields. There was no charge for that. We never charged the school district. I mean, we've always tried to work with our school district. But when we had youth soccer on our fields, they paid for all the lining, they paid for all the fertilizer annually. And then they moved out to the middle school when that comes
Right.
built. So it actually hurt us that they moved because we didn't maintain things as nice because they didn't pay for our fertilizer anymore annually. So I think it would be an annual maintenance agreement versus
Well, I guess.
a like per game, per day
Right,
fee.
I mean, I know that, everybody says, well, Weston is paying school taxes already, that we shouldn't have to, whatever, but there's Easton, and I mean, there's more than just Weston in the Everest School District. And I guess I kind of, the fact that they wiped out some of their baseball fields and everything, and I know they a lot of times will keep looking at us to provide it for them. And that's fine, but I guess I hope that there would be some annual something.
Yeah, and I believe that if we were to do a maintenance agreement with them, with all the user groups, as long as those fees were going towards the field maintenance, they have no issue with it. If we're taking those funds and put them in the general fund,
No,
well, then they're gonna look at it a little bit differently. And that's where their investment has improved our facilities. So, I mean, Corona went to a user fee multiple years ago and nobody uses their fields anymore. Because they take the user fees and they put them in the general fund and don't use them to maintain the fields. So, I mean, and I think any group would be happy to pay an annual maintenance agreement if they knew that money was going and being reinvested in the facilities they're using. So, and the school district, I mean, right now, we've been talking with them, they did commit to paying for doing work on Diamond One for their softball program for next season. They committed $10,000 to converting that to a skinned-in field to be able to use it for their JV softball next year.
okay.
They actually have games scheduled on it next spring. Which we told them they shouldn't be doing at this point, because we couldn't complete it this fall. And as we know, our springs are never nice. And they never pan out. I mean, so it may be questionable, but I mean, they were looking to schedule games in April and they only have one field and practices. So we just said, well, you could probably practice, Kenny, but I don't know if I'd schedule any games because we don't know if we get converted. So,
Well, that was always kind of.
and they are talking about it. We actually met with Bolt 2 weeks ago, right, Michael? Yeah, 2 weeks ago tomorrow.
We could go, yeah, someone.
So Bolt is doing the Green Neck Turner Center. We met with 3 of their employees because they have been talking with the school district about what they're gonna do as far as they're replacing their field that they removed. And my response was, we all need to be talking.
Mhm.
Baseball, softball, school district, village, like. It's not just a school issue, like,
Right.
we want these kids playing, we have facilities available that could be developed. And it's right across the road. And that's the biggest advantage of using Kennedy Park, is because sure, they have, nearly 40 acres over at Weston School. But you're gonna have to get kids from DC Everest over to Weston School every day for practice. Or for a game.
Well, like the hockey guy said, they just walk right down to Kennedy
Right,
Park. and-
Right, it's right
and
across, it's right
practice.
across the road, so, there are advantages there,
the
obviously, for them, for anything that the school does, so.
Well,
I think-
my concern is too, the fact that, if they're going to help with maintenance or whatever, maintaining, because we want to keep our staff level at a minimum also. You can't do it with what you got, that's for sure.
Well, if you read the corp, there is a recommendation in there, not a recommendation, but the average staff for a park department of 10,000 residents. The median amount of employees is 11.9. So we have 4. So, if you read that in the corp, it's just part of what they normally put in there,
Yes, I know.
but it is like shocking, like,
Well,
I'm like,
that's-
11.9 people, but that's maintain everything to the highest possible level you can.
Well, that's why I was asking, are they gonna contribute or help maintain, their.
Well, in the school district right now, so for their games, they do the lining. They do line the fields. I told them, I'm like, we can line them for you, but we're gonna charge. So they send over district staff to do that for their games.
They do lining, raking, tarping.
Right.
Well, no, for the school district, we literally prep the field and then they come and do the lining, chalking, et cetera. So.
You know what I'm saying is if we get all these, 4 people are just not gonna. So you're not only looking at the park cost.
Right,
you're
and that's
looking
where I
at
talk
the-
about doing a, performa where you're actually physically figuring out what your annual maintenance costs are, what your staffing needs would be. And this is something that we've been talking about. I mean, I've talked with trustee Pinsnell about it a couple times. And for me, it does seem backwards that literally you would approve a project and then say, well, what's it gonna cost to maintain it? Well, you're already in the design phase of it. Not this type, this was a concept plan, but when you're actually meeting with your engineers and architects, and you approve moving forward with development of Kennedy Park, then you're like, well, how much is it gonna cost us to maintain that?
Well, it's not really
That's how they do it. I mean, that's the process, but
I know, but really, there's 2 more fields.
and the maintenance on the fields is less due to the artificial turf, which we talked about with consultants. But your replacement costs, obviously,
Yeah.
So is there really any more maintenance? Not really.
so you're still grooming, you're still adding rubber infill to the fields. But you're not mowing them weekly or twice a week.
I would hope for like those artificial turf that wherever it happens to come from, that would be kind of like a depreciation fund that you would set aside.
Where you set aside,
A little bit each year for when that.
which is no different than
happens.
what they do with steam, right? I mean, they didn't completely fundraise for the replacement. They were actually raising funds each year to put away in a fund instead of coming up with that $250,000 or whatever it was
That's
to
what I'm
to
going-
re-turf it, so.
The turf is good, but you can replant grass much cheaper.
It extends the season tremendously, obviously. You don't have to deal with mud in the spring of the year.
Or on a rainy Friday night, Saturday morning.
You don't have enough people to tarp it.
Yeah.
I think you need 10 to tarp, right? 10
Yeah,
guys.
so I spent an entire weekend on one tournament and as a volunteer for Everest Baseball, not as a Village of Weston employee. But yeah, I had a nice conversation with an Everest Metro officer at about 11:30 at night as I was shop vacuuming water out of the infield. So. It was, but there are other dads, other parents like me that are out there, doing that work. And to Sean's point, that's the reason the current fields are able to be used for those
Right.
purposes, because
Yeah,
village staff isn't asked to do that work. It's other people volunteering their time. Weeknights, the fields are raked, they're dragged, they're taken care of by the organization, not just the village, so.
Well, like I said, I don't have a problem with Kennedy Park being used as it's projected here. I'm concerned on the costs and, operations. And I think when we do this, we have to do it fundraising and also figure out after we get it built, if we can maintain.
Well, before we get it built. We'll
Yes.
figure out. if we can
Yeah, well, that's kind of,
Like I said, with adding 2 artificial turf fields, more than likely would not affect our current staff.
Mhm.
It's just, like I said, the success of the group, youth baseball, has minimized the maintenance time we spend on those fields. But a tournament is hosted, they take care of restroom cleaning, stocking, emptying garbages. It's typically not village staff. They have used village staff and they literally hired them for the weekend. They're like, we want to hire your staff to drag fields in between all the games. This happened several years ago, probably before Michael was in the league. And they literally paid our seasonal staff to come in on the weekend and drag fields between games. Of course, they're okay with it because they were getting cash. They weren't hiring village staff, they were hiring village staff who knew how to maintain fields. And then paying them cash to maintain the field. So that has not happened since. And there are, a lot of involved people in youth baseball. I mean, I was involved in it, obviously. Outside of the village, I was a coach for 9 years. I mean, Michael saw me at the tournaments this summer and last summer, and my son's been aged up for 2 years. I'm still there volunteering either as somebody that just loves baseball or village staff. Because I feel like there's other people that do that sort of thing. They may not even have a child that was involved in baseball, but just want to volunteer, do some hard work, and
Sean's the next euchre.
yeah. So we have a couple other people that just aged out, and I know they're gonna be back. The parents will be back, just because they love the organization, they love the people that, et cetera, so. I guess I don't wanna belabor the Kennedy Park discussion anymore, but I mean, is there anything that you feel like we should look at, we should discuss before it goes back to the village board? I mean, I hope I answered your questions.
Yeah, I guess where do we go as far as fundraising? That's, I received an email from Dino and that was one of his concerns. How do we get local people to really buy in and take ownership of the progress?
And that's where the youth leagues will be instrumental, because they're ready to go. Like literally, if we have an approved plan, they are ready to fundraise. And then, grants, foundations that are outside of like our realm, which is state, federal grants, they're more likely to give funds to a youth organization versus government.
People like to give money for kids, not the government.
Yeah, which we've talked about before. Yes, we've gotten funds from, the Green Neck Foundation, Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin. But it's never been a lot. But I mean, you see what DC Everest Foundation did for Green Neck Turn. Like literally, like it wasn't DC Everest School District, it was DC Everest Foundation that was doing the fundraising. And we feel like there's other organizations. I mean, you get that right person. Ruth Schutte donated to the canoe and kayak launch. She's part of the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin. She absolutely loves kayak. So as soon as she heard about the proposal, when they sat down at their board meeting, she's like, yes, I want to give money towards that kayak launch on Ross Avenue. So you literally need the right people in the right room. Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin, they oversee, I don't remember how many foundations it is, because they oversee a bunch of them. Then you have the, you know, Green Neck Foundation, Dudley Foundation. There's a lot of organizations. I've met with all of them previously for other grants we've applied for or received. So I think just getting them in the room, the right people, we know there's funds available, and just letting them go with a plan with a cost estimate. I mean, you can't go and fundraise for an idea in your head. I wouldn't donate to that. And we've had this come up before. I mean, I've been here 23 years and we've had youth soccer, youth baseball, youth hockey. They've all came with lots of ideas towards us. I mean, this is not the first covered hockey rink that's been proposed. This is the third president that's been in with 3 different proposals for, you know, extending their hockey season, outdoor hockey season.
I know that.
So do we get them all in one room and we
Yeah.
have another meeting and do we invite Rattler in here so he can give another presentation, or how do we go about doing that?
I'd say once the board approves it and those
Right.
organizations know, like, yes, we can say this is an approved plan. Yeah, I mean, that probably wouldn't hurt that way. There's a joint message
They all
being
know.
sent.
Where they stand.
And they can all, you know, hockey can be like, yep, here's our portion, we're raising this. Softball really maybe wants field 5, and baseball says, yeah, we're working on field 4, or however it plays out, but
Yeah, youth hockey did reach out to me this morning too. Wondering if there was any concerns with the plan, you know, before when I went to the board. And I'm like, I don't think there was a mention of that hockey area. Cause it's probably a really small part of the plan,
yeah,
you know? But that would be, we talked about, that would be fully a maintenance agreement. I mean, if they're expecting us to flood it, clear it, you know, surface it, I mean, there's gotta be a maintenance agreement.
Yeah,
You know,
because that's.
I mean, especially if they wanna control some of it too, you know, as far as certain times, et cetera. I definitely, we have to get some agreements in place
Right.
with all the groups that are gonna be utilizing it. Doesn't matter which one it is.
Mhm.
And then you do a proportionate to how much their use is.
and even looking at like the northwest corner where the old park office is, the well house. You know, that building there is estimated, you know, a little over $2 million. Some of the bathroom updates come up to about 1.5 million. So long story short, you know, there's maybe $4 million of this cost that is kind of updating existing facilities no matter what, whether it ends up costing that much or not is maybe another story, but you know, that well house is gonna need to be updated. We've discussed redoing, you know, so we don't have 4 outbuildings there and it's one true multi-purpose building. You know, we mentioned updating the bathrooms, the ones that are existing. So, you know, some of these costs are park items that I believe we're already in agreement should be done, whether or not the baseball fields even get built, so.
Mhm.
All that
And of
stuff.
course,
kinda
the
gets-
construction materials they're utilizing are not necessarily what it would be built with.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, you know, what that architectural rendering of that facility looks like, but, you know, it's $3 million of wells right over here for not that large of a building, and so. You know, but again, that might be a water utility cost for a good portion of that building too, so. Just, we get caught up in the number a lot, but
Mhm.
I guess the main thing is the vision there, and then, yeah, do we pick it apart, you know, a little bit at a time?
Yeah, I wish the concessions was a little more detailed. I mean,
It is a big building though.
I've seen tournament style concessions with restrooms and, you know, the notes are, you know, up above.
So
On
there's
the
a,
second story, so I guess that's what I'm envisioning, I just.
It is the
Yeah.
second story. It's 1,600 square feet, so it's actually bigger than my house.
Oh, bigger. Same.
When I looked at it, I'm like, it's a very large, our upstairs is like 1,400. I'm like, yeah, that's bigger than my house,
Yeah, same.
you know? But yeah, so I mean, like Michael said, You delve into some of these prices, you know, a multi-purpose park building for $2.1 million. That seems unrealistic, you know. Storage building for another 125, park restroom shelter building for $735,000. I mean, our last prefab restroom facility we put in was like 60,000. You know, so, I mean.
I mean, it's obviously, it's definitely needed in our community, and Kennedy Park is already a staple, so.
But they are expanding everything like above and beyond what we currently have. Like our current shelter is 20 by 44. They're going with a shelter bathroom area that's 16 or 1,800 square feet. Right now we're at 880. So you're doubling the size of those areas, minimum. You know, existing restroom reconstruction allowance of $414,000. That's going up to a 900 square foot restroom facility. So, I mean, it definitely is changing what we currently have by upgrading everything. And that's one of the points everybody stressed was, if you're bringing in 500 people this weekend, you have to have proper restroom facilities.
Oh my gosh, yes. Have you seen those bathrooms? Oh,
Some of them are
we're all
rough.
parking on the grass. I'd like to, now we actually have parking spots. So, I mean, a little off-roading is always fun, but we can step it up a notch and have some parking spots.
Can we get parked in? Can we get parked in?
Yes, that too.
Yeah, they do go 3 wide sometimes, unfortunately.
So I guess we're agreeing on starting it in phases and the plan to local.
Yeah, so the board, and that was why I brought it here, was like, do you see anything, or are there any questions that you heard at the board meeting that need to be addressed? And Barb wasn't at the last park meeting, so obviously address some of your concerns. She did email me anyways regarding some of them, but you had questions regarding it, and I hope I responded properly to the questions that you asked me about. I know we can't wait to delve into process, so.
That's a sore spot.
It's a sore spot because we've owned it so long and we haven't done anything with it too,
Right.
you know?
Figured out by
There's a lot of potential.
Not at the price we paid.
It's already done
I know.
though.
Jamie, myself and Shang went and toured it on one of the warm days 2 weeks ago. So,
I'm excited about it. Has a lot of potential.
well, if you don't have any proposed changes or anything that, I mean, we can look at these numbers a little bit more. And that was one of the things I talked to the consultant about after the meeting last Monday, was like, you know, they're concerned. I mean, Shane was concerned about, was concerned about the cost estimate. And, you know, I mean, he's,
Well, I'm
I
concerned.
mean, what did he do in his, you know, for a living?
But he's probably looking at it as a all one project.
It's possible, you know, where,
I'm sure as an engineer, that's what he's looking at. You know,
Yeah,
and you can't do it if you're gonna do it the way,
yeah, we just realized that we can't
we can't just.
do it all at one
No.
time. If we had a fresh, clean property like Weston Elementary
Right.
School, and you just go build the whole thing, keep Kennedy intact, and then build the entire
Right.
site out, you know? And then a couple of years down the road, you can open it up and utilize it all. So.
Do you need a separate motion on just this then?
They did approve the master plan previously.
Okay.
The park committee did recommend
We did.
approval. I brought it back because the board deferred action on it last Monday. And so I just wanted to make sure that everything was addressed. As far as, you know, what came out of the board meeting, and then if there was anything that we should be working on before we bring it back to the board.
Should we just make a motion to?
To approve it in
Prove it
stages.
as in stages? Fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, I did put it in there where you could take action on it. you know, that you agree will be developed in phases.
Yeah.
And the current plan is satisfactory. Or you like the current plan?
To keep the current plan, developing it in phases with fundraising.
Motion by Ermeling,
Second.
second by Eastman, motion's been approved, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any more in discussion? Opposed, motion passed. All right, number 7, discussion and possible action on Pasca Park.
So basically the same thing. Is this what you envision for the Prosk property in the future? You know, it's 87 acres. We've discussed it pretty thoroughly. We made some pretty drastic changes after one of our meetings. I mean, the camping was a drastic change. But we've received some really positive feedback about having, you know, some urban camping available. We know baseball was excited about it. They're like, well, every time we have a tournament or anything, it will be full. It's probably not a major revenue stream, so I'm not promoting that. It is a revenue stream, but if you do, you know, charge $30 a night, you know, there will be some revenue coming in from it.
Do you know how much they charge for a campsite nowadays?
Well, I don't go to River's Edge, so. River's Edge is very expensive, but a traditional one that doesn't have, you know, a swim pond and the river,
Lots
you
of
know.
ponds on this one.
Yeah, there's lots of ponds. They have a swim pond though. That's the one you see along Highway 51 where you're going south. So you gotta look at the features they have available. So you'd be looking at the mixture of a, you know, a state campground with a, you know, private campground that doesn't offer a lot of those amenities. I mean, we don't have a general store. We don't have, you know, certain things. So that's where one of those things where, you know, we talked about, you know, adding some other features that would work great for camping, like permanent beanbag, Gaga, but permanent beanbags, which they just did one, you know, Salt and State, they just did a concrete set of beanbags. You know, stuff that would have more, there's more entertaining value for people to go camp there. This golf, one of the consultants or one of the members of Bolt's team that we met with, he's like, I live like 2 miles away from here and I would be camping there all the time.
Same, actually.
You know, and I'm just like,
But-
and I grew up camping my entire life, but it just seems odd to me. Like, we lived east of Boston. I wouldn't drive out to the Eau Claire Dells and camp there because it's like a couple miles away from my house. You know what I mean? Like, we would just go up north, someplace completely different. But
Some
you know,
people just camp in their driveway too, so.
yeah. So, yeah, so I mean, times have definitely changed, but people are busier. So what if you could camp and still do your stuff in town that weekend and you're still camping versus staying at home? You know what I mean? The convenience of it, which I stated that there's a staff member that just loves camping at Marathon Park because you can order delivery pizza to your camper, you know? Yeah, it was Toppers specifically. I'm like, that is a good idea because you take some of the work out of camping then. Camping is a lot of work.
I think that's glamping.
For the adults.
I don't think that's camping.
Especially
Glamping.
That's right.
Well, not my camp.
Not on
Outside
Um,
toilets.
but
But we
I
talk-
did get some backlash a little bit, like who's gonna maintain this, just like who's gonna maintain Kennedy Park, so.
But so what additional maintenance do you feel would be from camping? I mean, camping, people that camp are typically clean. They're used to packing in, packing out. They bring garbage with, they take it out with them, you know? Of course, we'd have garbage facilities available. The sewer and water idea was just because if you don't have a place for them to hook up, then you have to have a dump station or a washout station. So if we have the ability to do sewer and water connections for those, you know, campsites, 12 campsites, the cost is minimal, really. Yes, we would have to winterize the water lines. We already winterize, you know, 7 restroom facilities, irrigation systems, the aquatic center. I mean, it's not out of our norm of what we do each year. I mean, we could probably winterize that entire thing in about half hour, 45 minutes, you know, so it's not a huge thing. But yes, there would be extra garbage. You would have to clean out fire pits occasionally. You know, in a lot of places, they, you know, campers do their own fire pit cleanouts. You know, if you have a coal station where they can dump their, still smoldering firewood or coals. You hope that's where that goes. I mean, we dump it in the back of our truck and then the truck's on fire in the back, so,
Been there.
which has happened a couple times.
Can't say I've ever cleaned up my own fire pit.
Most of the time you burn them till it's nothing left,
Yeah.
but they do need to be cleaned out occasionally. So is additional maintenance. I mean, the other side of it that we saw was if you have more presence there, campers, et cetera, it is a remote part. So, to have some people there with presence may reduce the amount of stuff that's going on at night that happens at other parks already. We know that the more visible typically is better, but that's how we built the skate park. It's gonna be so visible along all this so that the kids are not gonna screw around or cause any problems. Well, they still do. So, I mean, you'd like to eliminate that, but, that was one of the aspects of camping. We thought, hey, if there's a couple campers, 2-3 campers out there during the week, the weekends are full. I mean, it's gonna eliminate people coming in there to goof around too, bring in the disc golf traffic. They play all winter. Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, she knows, she lives right by it.
Yes.
Yeah, they host a,
Holidays and all.
yeah, they host a New Year's tournament too, typically. So there's some diehards that play year round. Of course, you have to use multicolored discs, not white ones. But so I guess, is there anything else that you feel? I know Barb is not just dead set against the camping thing. She's just like,
I just think it's gonna be a nightmare.
and there was mention of, hey, do we talk to the county? They currently run 3 campgrounds.
But are they gonna come all the way out? I mean, this is a small,
What if there's a pump issue, like for wastes and whatnot, who's,
There would be no pump. We already figured out that this would be a gravity drain system. That's why we moved the restrooms to the south. So it would
and the
literally,
tank can't fill or anything, like,
is that,
the tank can't fill up?
It would be gravity fed all the way, just like your house is.
Oh,
You flush the toilet, it goes into the main and it's gone.
yeah, we
Yeah.
would prefer, because we do have a grinder pump lift station at one of our sites right now. But by moving the restroom to the south, based on the, topography, the elevation and the depth of the sewer main on Weston Avenue, we should be able to gravity flow it.
that's happened to me, I connected to a full tank.
But we wouldn't have a
Make
tank.
sure.
We wouldn't have a tank because we connected to city sewer and water, so.
Okay.
Then would the campsites have or would they still have
Individual
individual
hookups,
hookups?
yeah.
And that would all be gravity fed too into the system?
Should be able to, I mean, because if it is winterized, it could be shallow.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be the depth of your typical sewer and water. I mean, there would be additional costs, obviously, in developing it, because if you put electricity at every site, but doesn't mean we have to have electricity at every site. We could do some RV sites and some tent sites that wouldn't have the sewer and water. But are you maximizing
You have to-
what people do right now? I mean, I know a few people that still tent camp, but they prefer not.
Well, I tent camp, but I did, even with babies, but it's nice to have a fan. Or, a heater if you need one or something, but do
AC.
you know how hot a tent gets?
yes, I used to camp in one.
So-
Camper.
I don't know, I think they should just all be the same, all unison, but yeah, that was a concern about who's going to maintain it, but
It's still, I mean, camping is still a passive use, and we're not looking at anything too.
Explain to me again what all we're putting in there.
So it's literally walking trails.
Yep.
Disc golf course. Shelter, restrooms, and a play area. And then
these are the fishing ponds.
Yeah, that I,
so you have a fishing pier, and then some, number 13 is the viewing platforms, which you could also fish from. So when Jamie and I were out there, we also talked about possibly a second dock on that main lake. Just so there's more accessibility for people to fish. 'Cause if you have one dock, there is. So if you look, there's two number 13s and then number 11, which is the actual fishing pier. The other ones they're called viewing platforms, but it would allow you access to obviously be able to fish it too.
Yeah,
We
just
want access to all of them.
one pier and like 5 fishing
Are
poles.
we gonna
doesn't
restock them every
sound like a very
week
good
or every
idea.
spring?
No, we wouldn't be doing a restocking program. We've talked with the DNR, remember when we went through this whole process with the Bashuta property
Yes.
and these ponds? They literally said, you will not fish it out. You
Okay,
may reduce the population where it's gonna have to rebound. But you would never actually fish it out. So it's a lot of walking trails. The disc golf was thrown in there. I don't know if anybody's actually sold on that yet, especially if we do improvements to yellow banks, because we did get the wetland delineation from Sparks when you guys approved it.
Mhm.
That's been completed. It's been forwarded to Los Area Disc Golf Enthusiasts. They were gonna go out there last week and flag out secondary pin locations, and then we really are not working around as much wetlands as we thought.
Awesome.
So unfortunately, it was super dry when they did the wetland
Yeah,
delineation.
well.
So
for us.
it literally reduced it down to a couple small areas from what we originally were thinking.
That is fantastic.
So there's actually improvements that could be done that would help us maintain it easier for you to go
Mhm.
versus going in there with trimmers.
Yeah.
So
For the, remind me, I know we talked about this a long time ago, the walking trails that are in here, I know some of them are existing, kind of.
yeah,
I
so
remember, and then what, are they gonna be gravel or just?
well, if it's within the wetlands, and if you look at the topography on here, there you see there are wetlands. Those would be limited to either just mowed grass, or if we needed to, we could do wood chips, something you could replace. But adding any actual fill would not be allowed in the wetlands area. We could possibly do a general permit to get some leeway on that. So they tried to stay out of areas when they drew this up.
Mhm.
Stay out of the areas where we would have to deal with a lot of that. And they based it on what they saw in the aerials where the previous trails were mowed,
Yeah,
you know? And those were just mow trails.
and do you, like, once a year, do you have to, like, I don't know how much maintenance is that?
We would probably mow them, that would probably be like a monthly thing. Especially with the amount of brush that's around the ponds right now. I mean, if we had maintained it from purchase
Right
till
away.
now,
Mhm.
it would have been a lot easier.
Yeah,
But they grew in with like
Yeah.
tag alders and all
Oh,
that,
yeah.
and now the ponds are a lot less successful than they were. I mean, you can get right down to it. The water quality was, you could see to the bottom, nice and
The
clear.
dog could get right down to it.
Yeah, somebody brought her dog with, wanted to go.
Real
what are we doing with that top part that we ended up with?
So that's pretty much all wetlands.
Okay, I didn't know if that was or not.
It is, so if you see the gray area,
Yeah,
that north 10 acres, that's about the only area that's not really,
okay, I guess I was misreading, sorry.
yeah, so it is quite wet. You know, that's something that could be looked at, though. I mean, there are some groups, at least one group that might enjoy that, like a single track mountain biking trail, you know, with mud. Where they
You
could,
get in trouble with that?
well, they could build, if you've ever seen any of that single track stuff, they build like narrow boardwalk that they can ride over the top. And they might get into something like that, like they might enjoy having that, but I don't know if there's enough elevation. You know, they like boulders, like natural features where this is just. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Well, I know originally that's what we thought this was going to be, is more of a bike type.
Would that be Seawalk then?
Yeah,
Is that something that you're requesting, Barb? It's added?
Well, I
well, I
guess,
think these trails would be multi-use, but
Yeah.
it would be biking and walking.
yeah,
I don't think we'd wanna just say these are walking only
It'd be more like Gasca Park.
trails. Yeah. And there's most of that is not even improved.
Yep.
Except for the bridges.
Yeah, I mean, it's wood chips from, 30 years ago that have never been replaced.
It's 12 by 12 concrete curb, 26. What'll be in that area?
26 is
Yeah.
big toss and Gaga ball pit area.
Oh, where is that?
So what?
Gaga ball?
I don't
Are
know
you
what that-
missing? Is that for real?
What's that?
For real?
Yeah, it's on key, number 26. If you look on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Big toss and Gaga.
Oh,
ball
I'm
pit
looking
area.
down below. Okay, so.
See where you see that? You see curb.
Yeah, I see if you look down below, it says curb, 12 by 12 curb, but if you look to the left at that key, it says big toss and Gaga. If you go back to the map.
Yeah, and they're probably doing it, they're doing a 12 by 12 curb because technically you're, that, well, 20, yeah, that's, number 26 is just a line item.
Go like this. Click
Yeah.
here and go and then type in 20.
Well, I'm going all over. Now I even lost my mouse. There we go. Now I'm supposed to, what, not leg, page 27,
21.
21.
The number locked
Okay. Oh, over here, all righty.
Yeah, there's a key on the left-hand side. Shows what each item is.
What was the number?
26.
26. The last one.
I'm almost afraid to do it. Don't speeding right past me. There we go. Bag toss. What is Gaga ball? I just got figuring out what the other one was.
It messes your kids' shoes all up. Let's just put it that way.
So it's a octagon or hexagon? Octagon, right? Eight sided?
Yeah.
So if you want to see one, there's one right over here at Weston Elementary. So it's an 8-sided pit. It's above ground though. Balls are both this size, this tall. You get a little, depending on the ball, foam ball, depending on sometimes a rubberized one. And you smack it with your hand and you try to hit the other people out of the pit by hitting them in the legs with it. So if they get hit with it, they're out of the pit. And you just whittle it down to the last 2 people in there and then one person's ultimately the winner. And you can start with as many players in the pit as you want. And it's been around for a
We
long
used to
time.
have a game, but it wasn't called Gaga ball. I don't know what.
Yeah, no, it's become quite popular.
Dodgeball, you're thinking.
Yeah, there we go.
There's multiple schools that have them now. They actually moved and improved the one over at Weston Elementary because it used to be on the field. They moved it like just a couple months ago over here. And we actually met with Boy Scouts who multiple years ago that was interested in building one in one of
I
our
mean, they
parks.
gotta bring their own ball. We're not providing any.
Oh, it would be no different than the beanbag toss. You'd have to bring your own bags because you couldn't leave those out. They'd be junk in no time. Or
Be
the
gone.
animals would eat them.
Yeah.
Or they be gone just because.
The chickens would pick
Yeah.
So it is one of those where
Get that.
it's very popular among groups. My son got into it when he was in Scouts. That's when he first got into it. They haven't got
I just had never heard.
at Camp Star, at Camp
Right,
Sturtevant.
that's the one I.
And he's 15 now and he started playing there when he was.
And I do have to say, there are always kids in it at Weston Elementary when they're out for recess.
And then they're always filthy too. Yeah, the kids get filthy, especially when it rains and the water flows right in the bottom of
That's why I'm saying it destroys their shoes. Love of God, please wear your boots.
Custodian likes that.
I bet.
So it's kind of the like, what I stated in the last meeting where, remember when you used to bring your horseshoes whenever you went to a park
Mhm.
for a picnic or a family gathering, everybody just brought their own horseshoes, because you always had horseshoe pits. But that's kind of
Same concept.
gone away though. Now you're moving up to something that's a little bit different. Family oriented. I played Gaga plenty of times myself too, so.
That's
Um,
impressive.
Well, when you go to some scout camp,
Everybody plays.
yep, they have it up at Kayla's World in Rhinelander. I stayed up there for a week with my son. They have it here in town too. They have one at right out here at Canfield's.
Cameron?
Yeah. So I played plenty of Gaga myself. Not anymore. So, and I do have another question, and since we are talking about Proscott, it doesn't necessarily apply to the plan. But we did get a question from another trustee wondering how come we don't have access open right now.
We don't have access.
Like, we don't have open
The gate's
access to
closed.
Prohaska Park at this point.
So,
And now it's drawing attention because with the park signage project, we put the signs out there.
right,
Mhm.
that's what he said.
So I was contacted by a resident, asked if they could go in there, and it's somebody that we know, they live out on Ryan Street. I said, yeah, absolutely, if you wanna go in there, and check it out. When we initially purchased the property, we left it open. We had a bunch of problems. It's a perfect place to just disappear and nobody sees you. We had a truck get stuck back there because they tried to follow that south loop around where you parked. They tried to follow that south loop around, got buried. Cause they don't know, it looks like a trail, right? You saw it too. You're like, hey, can I just drive through there? No, you can't drive.
But I didn't think that.
No, but you can't drive through there. So we had a truck get buried, we had people dumping garbage back there, we had kids just hanging out partying.
Oh, building their own fires and stuff.
So it was one of those things, I mean, it's not, the turnaround's not great. Like you have to pull off of the road, and then turn around in the grass, we all did it that day. Husheng tried to do a wide turn on the hard surface. So, I mean, if we had a parking lot, we could definitely open up access and have people start using it. I have no issue with it, I just wanna make sure that that's what we wanna do. I mean, we'll get some garbage cans out there, whatever it is, maybe we shouldn't have signs put up. Because we're encouraging it, but we were doing all our park signs at once, so it made sense to do those for that park right away. But, do we plan on developing this? I mean, we do have plans in the CIP and funds budgeted to start doing development there. But do we want to promote use of it right now? I mean, are we gonna get people,
What kind of problems did you have?
like I said,
Like, were they, I mean,
Lots,
it was quite a bit.
well, there's no lighting back there.
Mhm.
party time.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, goodness, we used to.
I mean,
Yeah.
our most remote park right now is Montgomery. And even though I say it's remote, there's 500 houses just to the west of it. And it's along the road, but we still see problems there.
Are we going to be plowing? I mean, cause. once
We
the
wouldn't
snow-
plow it. Typically, we only
Well,
plow right
that's
now.
an Issue right now, it's not gonna be accessible.
If people
We're
want
not
to
gonna
snowshoe
plow.
back there, I mean.
Right.
that would be-
Right now, we're
Well,
grooming the Eau Claire River Trail and we're grooming the pass at the dog park.
So if we just leave the gate open, it's going to snow at this point, so. Cross-country skiers or snowshoers, then I just don't foresee kids really partying outside in the winter.
Oh, they do.
Mhm.
You grew up in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah, I mean.
We're not talking about what I did.
Oh, yes.
You ever been on the, ice shack out on the lake?
Yes.
Yeah,
Again. we're
kids are not gonna party in the winter? No,
I mean,
like
the
I said,
odds are it's not really, I mean,
there is obviously a house right there that can kind of that's gonna patrol people going in and out of there to some extent.
what's any
Really?
difference when it is developed and when it's not, I guess?
Just like I said, they put in a lot of lighting for safety purposes. When we talked about this when we were doing the park lighting, we also changed the entrance, so it's not so remote, so you have a more direct sight line into where they would be. Where now you're way back in there, well, you were in there, imagine if you came straight off Weston Avenue, you could see the street lights going in there, you'd have a little more visual. The police are not gonna drive by and say, hey, I should pull in there by that silo and that gate, and go check things out, because there's no lights or nothing in there, so.
You could have a slotted swamp.
Well, it looks like it's part of
Currently.
that person's property, it looks like
Right.
their property, not.
Right, but I think we drew attention to it by putting the signs on, for sure. So, we're entirely fine with it, but I would definitely make sure we got some garbage cans out there. people just walking around, spending time in nature, it's easily, you can do that out there right now.
Could you put no vehicles?
Well, where would they park then, you know?
And they'd probably be on the road. which
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it,
I would definitely suggest that we put some barricades like around that south ring or that north ring where I told you like where they got stuck.
Right.
Like put barricade that so they don't try to go in there.
Or put the dumpster there or something.
You know, just something to try to prohibit them from going, you know, in there. So it was an offshoot. I was gonna touch on it during my report to discuss that, but now if you want to get back to the master plan to see if there's anything else. Barbara, what do you think about the camping now?
I still don't like it. I just think it's gonna be a maintenance thing.
And like I said, but is this the direction we want to go with this park?
Do we, the disc golf course, do we have the holes? I don't remember. We have more holes?
We have currently we have baskets. We have,
how many you got there?
we have 8 that are not installed right now.
Okay.
So we have 12 out there. We have 11 holes plus a practice basket. So we originally bought 19.
Okay.
So we have the rest in storage. But the idea that what disc golf wants to do is they want to add secondary pin locations out of yellow bags.
Mhm.
So you could technically play the course multiple different ways. You could play the course, well, with 11 holes, technically you'd have 4 ways to play each hole if you wanted to. They have 2 tee locations and 2 pin locations.
Mhm.
So you could cross straight, there's lots of options. So that's what their current plan is. If they did look at this,
Mhm.
Mhm.
we had them go out there after the spring and they're like, they definitely feel like it's a viable course. It would be more of a introductory, a beginner course. 'Cause you're not dealing with all the water and all the thorns
This
and
is more
brush.
of an
This is
intermediary.
this is a little bit more difficult just because of the water and then dealing with all the thorny brush.
Yeah.
Because if you throw your disc in it every time, you won't be coming back. You'll be coming back bloody every time. Which is one of the things they complain about, but just having to do that every 2 to 3 months, just knocking down all that heavy thorny brush just to keep it playable, which is the struggle there. So, we've talked about this before, you know, now that the delineation came back favorable, we could improve that one to make it more maintenance friendly, easier to maintain. Still a difficult course to play, but you know, this gives us another option if we don't have to do it.
We don't have to do it
That's what I
right
was
now.
thinking.
We can leave it at some.
Yeah, I mean, we
point.
can leave it, if we can do the improvements at Yellow Banks, we wouldn't even have to do any development of this golf here.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
What in particular don't you think they'll be able to maintain, as far as camping farm? I just wanna. address
Well,
that.
I mean, campgrounds require some maintenance. You're not gonna allow,
When's the last time you went camping?
years ago.
Because, well, I'm just saying from, I guess. We go quite a bit, but everybody just takes care of their own campsite. Cause they have campers and they, you know, there's a garbage waste, there's. You know, human waste, and then you just pack up your belongings and you're gone. You don't leave a mess anywhere. And people are just, that's pretty standard nowadays. You don't even leave a plate in the fire pit. I mean, that's pretty standard.
and we totally understand that this is out of the norm. Like,
I guess firewood would be.
Okay,
a
and
question,
explain to me
you know,
why
because
we're-
usually you can't bring your own firewood, but now you can,
yeah,
which is great.
well, the whole state's quarantined now, so that means you can travel anywhere with firewood.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, because it's all,
Because everybody's got EAB now, so the whole state's quarantined, and so it allows moving of firewood within the state. no problem.
Great.
Okay, that answers that question. Perfect.
okay, so what is the reasoning for camping? What are we having out there that you need campers?
I don't think it's necessarily having there, but it would give people options for, say you're coming for a different event. You know, say you're coming for the balloon rally and you want a place to camp. Yes, there are other campgrounds in the county, so you got Big O Plain, Marathon Park, Bill Claire Dells. But if you're coming for a baseball tournament, or you're coming to go to the Green Neck Turner Center for an event on a weekend, A lot of the baseball families actually pull their campers with them and go camp. And we brought it up during the discussion that, you know, when you go to Anago for a tournament, you actually camp in town in somebody's backyard. There's a strip of land where people, baseball teams, families just park their campers on the strip of land that's basically in a bunch of backyards. But I mean, we've played in Aqua, and a bunch of our families just stayed at, you know, a campground around Aqua.
Like rally.
Yeah, so there's various, I guess, thoughts behind it. When it was first brought up, I was like, camping, like, it's, because it is out of the norm. Usually county or state campgrounds, federal campgrounds. Have you heard of Village of Weston campground? Like a local municipality.
So there's
You know, City of Wassa is, yes, Marathon Park is in the city of Wassa, but it's a county park. Marathon Park is a county park, it's not actually city park. So it is a little bit different to have,
and there's only a dozen,
but
a dozen sites.
it's definitely gotten more popular too.
What do you, so he suggested $30 a night, but like, what is, in
Yeah.
your experience, the norm for a space? Like, what would you envision?
I mean, it's usually, it's $80 a night, but that's when they have a pool and, you know, a splash, like a pond, concessions. That goes for about $80 a night, so, I mean, I don't think that.
I think
$45-$50
state campgrounds are around 30 right now, like a state campground. where
They
you have
are.
No electricity,
But you have to buy a sticker and you still have
yeah,
to pay
right,
that.
no electricity,
sort of
no sewer
fee,
water.
so I think $45-$50 would be fair.
With
That's what
water
we
and
did.
sewer, with
Abs-
hookups, I
and-
think.
Yeah, with hookups, I would
Right.
say 45-50.
I looked up Anagos, they charge 25, but that's fine.
Garden hose to the camper.
Yeah, I have no idea. It said water and sewer.
That's what it is basically anyways. It still is a garden hose.
Well, at least this has got a, you know, it's got a toilet facility and it's got electricity. I mean,
So Barb, initially when it was proposed, I was like, really? Like, who the hell is gonna go camping there? Cause I go past Marathon Park and I wonder, who the hell
Yeah.
who goes camping there? Why? But, you know, after discussion at some of the meetings and a lot of families traveling for baseball tournaments or soccer tournaments or things like that that have other kids, like, I can see the benefit to having a space where you can actually park your camper and do other, because the tournaments is, if you're traveling for a weekend, you have a lot of downtime. And I could see a park like this would be a fantastic opportunity to let the kids out and run and be in nature, but yet you're close to town, so you have,
well, how would you regulate who camps there?
We would do a reservation system through our current
Just like
software
your
system.
shelters.
Through our current software system.
Okay.
Like literally, you can only book a spot. If it gets reserved, it's not available for anybody to book it. So our system that currently used for our shelters, all 7 of our shelters, we also use it for pool passes, swim lesson registration. It's already all basically in there. We would just have to build the program for that. So I think there's probably more opportunities than what we're envisioning, just due to you just saying, well, other events. How many events do they have on the 400 block?
all the
How
time.
many do they have at the soccer complex? You know,
And
the
then
Hmong
this is-
Festival, I mean, it's pretty much, if you promoted it, because there is not that much,
Exactly.
you know?
I think it
I mean, the
would
old
be-
plane is a long ways away. The Dells is
Yeah.
pretty close. But the Dells is usually booked too. I mean, they're
Yeah.
busy if you go out there.
These 12 sites are gonna go like hotcakes.
I would agree. And I think in the grand scheme of things, I mean, if the infrastructure is essentially there. I guess I went from like, you're joking to, oh, maybe we could expand this.
I just worry about, you know, do you guys have the manpower? That's all. I mean, clearly, I mean, you have 8 employees, you need twice as many.
Well,
At some
fair.
point, doesn't the conversation need to turn into,
that's what I'm saying, like revenue generator.
right,
Like,
we need to,
Parks is not a huge revenue generator at this point.
Mhm.
And typically they aren't. we do park reservations, but, I thought, our parks are reserved quite a bit. I met with the administrator Rothschild here a couple weeks ago, and they have some beautiful facilities. We've talked about George Street, River Street. With these beautiful kitchens, shelter, bathrooms all in one. They're hardly ever rented, tell me.
What?
Yeah, hardly ever. I'm like, really? And like, those are nice facilities. You built them the way they should be built with the
Yeah.
kitchen there and everything. Cause since we utilize the same software system, I'm like, you should be using that for park reservations instead of doing paper copies. Well, people like just to walk in.
No, they don't.
I'm like, people like to do stuff online, like, it's so easy, I'm like, you could set it up in your system where they can reserve them online. And I mean, Jess and I are on sports pretty much every day, all season, just because they can rent one right now for tonight in an hour
Yeah.
online. Yes, it makes it a little more curious than having it come in a paper copy and we physically know it. We actually have to log in and check on a daily basis if they come in. But we definitely are reserving them a lot more. Our most popular Kennedy and Montmiller, rented out nearly every Saturday, Sunday, most of the time. A lot of reservation or a lot of the use of the parks is also not reserved too, though.
And how does that work out when somebody reserves that shelter area? Do you go by the next day to make sure that, it was cleaned up? I mean,
Yeah,
this is
so-
kind of the same concept.
Yeah, we post calendars that shows who's got it reserved. And then on shelter rentals, we clean and stock the bathrooms and clean the shelters before the reservation. Weekends too. Saturdays and Sundays, we typically have somebody in. Well, we have somebody in every Saturday and Sunday anyways, 'cause of the pool. But we have somebody coming in and cleaning bathrooms, shelters. So we just clean the ones where the reservations take place, So to your point, somebody rented it Friday night and then they left Saturday, we'd have to probably go and check that campsite. That's what you're saying, to make sure that's ready for the next one.
I don't think
Or
it'd
you
be
could-
that hard though, because we are in already.
But
Right.
I guess what I would recommend, because other campsites do this too, you have to book for the whole weekend. You can't just onesie, twosie days. You have to camp minimum of 2 nights.
Mhm.
And then that would put less load on you.
Right.
And then, yeah, some of the places that we go to on holiday weekends, you have to book all three.
Well, yeah, and yeah, Indian Shore is actually, you have to book an entire week now. So. But I don't think the demographics is gonna go that well for them, but that.
Yeah, well, at least if you
No
booked it
ownership,
for the
they'll
whole
have to feel it
weekend,
out.
you wouldn't have to go out there until
Each
Monday
day,
morning.
right.
You wouldn't have to have somebody for the weekend.
It should be a
Normal
2-day
coverage
minimum.
run.
My
run
recommendation would
parks
be-
every Monday anyway. And Fridays for sure.
Do you think there'd be any interest in doing like a campsite host and maybe that person would stay that weekend for free, but they would look after to make sure that the campsites were cleaned up.
That's what Wassa does, the Dells and that's. They have a whole simple sites.
Yeah.
Where the people camp there all summer.
She's.
I mean,
Job.
I think we may have, may have too few of sites, to do that.
Don't need it.
But, because Deal Plain is a huge campground. I mean, they have east and west wings and lots of campsites.
Yeah,
But I know
would
they've
have to have more than one host, I think.
Yeah, I know they've struggled with finding hosts at times, just because you are making a huge commitment. And not a lot of people like to camp for 3 months straight.
Even if it got broke up somehow,
Right.
so it was a shorter stay, but then sometimes that helps with if the people have questions about the community or what to do or where to go or where things are, they could talk to the campground host.
That's a really good idea.
You could probably get, fiber internet right there and you got water and sewer. It's not big there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pizza delivery.
But I think that the 2-day.
It's not far away, yeah.
Requirement, it would have to be
You don't need a
Saturday, Sunday, so that then you could do your check-in on Fridays and then.
We probably have gone way too far in details.
Right.
Kind of like you say, you want to see more details on the plans. Well, this is probably not the time where we should be talking about those details, because we're not even committed to the plan at this point. I mean, you guys are, you've committed to it already.
Yeah.
You were all on board with camping that night, but Barb wasn't
We're
here.
on board now, though, I think. Yeah, but the campground hosts might, I don't know, relieve some questions about the maintenance and.
I think it's just feeling it out. I mean,
Yeah, see
maybe
what
you just
happens.
you go without it first, and see what happens. And
Yeah,
I mean, because if you're bringing in some revenues, do you want to be spending it out right away?
Right.
You know, it's nice to find alternate funding for bringing new programs or new amenities to the village. But we know parks is it's the feel good part of being in government. You know? It's all about the quality of life, offering different stuff. We talked about just maintaining parks in the past, but as your community's growing, you need to be growing too. You can't just stay status quo. And I know, Barb, this has been a sore spot. We bought it a long time ago. We spent a lot of money on it. We got EIF funds to help with the purchase, which doesn't make it any easier. We still spend a lot of money, which is the environmental impact fund, to help with the purchase. But now it's just been sitting there for 7, 8 years now, Barb.
No longer
I
than
think it's
that.
2015 is when we closed on it. So it does have to become a park.
Yeah.
In the purchase agreement, there were stipulations on what became of the property, what the name of it is. That's why I didn't call you about the name, because that was part of the purchase agreement.
Yes, we paid him an arm and a leg and then still named it after him. He quoted one price and then changed the price. I can still remember
So what
that.
you're saying is down the road when I wanna sell my property, you don't want to buy it as parkland?
Change the price.
Can we get another well on it?
Lot of water.
No, I think I kind of love the idea because it is different than a lot of the stuff that we have as a passive use, and it's beautiful. I mean, just I liken it very much to our property when I walk down there and to enjoy nature, and a lot of people don't have access to it. Like this, where you can do so many things out there, whether it's walking your dog or snowshoeing, whatever. I mean, you can use it all 4 seasons of the year. The ponds are kind of a great useless feature, but it's, we have kids that come and fish in our pond. Like, they've just come and knocked on the door and said, you know that you have a pond back there. Would you mind if we?
Awesome. And you let them?
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so like,
Sometimes my kids get shoot. I'm like, well, did you ask?
oh, yeah, if people come and ask, we're more than happy to share the property because it's beautiful and that's what we want to do. And so I kind of liken it to the park where kids are looking for that kind of activity, and we want to encourage it at this point, for sure. Anything that we can encourage people to get outside and do. And this is different than everything else that we have. And you can be lots of different ages and use it all together.
It's definitely become more popular since COVID too. It's another one of those things that has grown, but I think we've always been progressive with different features in our parks. There was a lot of opponents to the dog park, weren't there, about
Oh, yeah.
a lot,
Really?
but one of our busiest parks year round, the dog park is.
It wasn't supposed to cost us a penny.
See, she still remembers, from that to the Eau Claire River Trail, which is a unique walking trail that was added. We've added some, the skate park. You know how big that was for this area in 2008? All you had was a little ramp and blacktop at Oak Island and Lhasa, and we put in an 8,000 square foot all concrete skate park. We do, like, to some extent, try to lead, I think, as far as what we're doing within our parks. Barb, if you use the dog park, you would absolutely love it. Because, people just absolutely would do anything for that park. They try to protect it as much as they can.
It's a community for sure.
So it's just, first dog park in the area. And now look at that, You know,
That's what they
yeah,
said.
Weston's got one, they're looking at building a second one in the old Menards, you know. Kroner put one up. Vermont's got a dog park, I mean, but we were the first ones in the area, and that was in 2004.
And I think, you know, I mean, we have the land, right? I mean, we need to do something with it. It's useless
yes.
just sitting there now, regardless of how it came to be. And I think there's a lot of flexibility, you know, so if we don't put disc golf in, maybe the bikers will see potential and will put
Or
bike trails in
another
there.
dog park.
Put a trail in there.
Did you see the one in Gasca? They opened their dog park now, Rothschild did,
To what?
their dog park.
Oh,
So the original plan was to put their dog park on their former landfill, which is right by their public works garage off of military. Well, that plan didn't go through. It was supposed to be done 2 years ago when Gary was still there. So now they went and cut out the woods in Gasca and fenced in the area just to the north of the existing parking lot over by the shelter. It's been open for months already. It's in the woods. It's kind of cool.
The mosquitoes are thick in those woods.
Oh, they are bad.
But I have a dog I can't take to the dog park, so it's kind of useless.
Oh.
He doesn't like dogs. I told you that.
Oh.
Well, my dog doesn't
Yeah.
like dogs either.
So dog parks for me are useless unless I go there when there's nobody else there.
That's good. Good luck.
Mine runs in,
Right.
I got 2 acres of land and she runs in that, so.
So
So this evening, would you like another motion to reaffirm, or do you feel like,
I think we should reaffirm. Barb's probably gonna vote no. I'm
I'm
joking.
almost convinced.
I almost convinced you. Well, like I said, if you have questions, I mean, I just wanted to come back, answer the questions. You know, it's good to have the support, obviously, of the board members, especially when it goes to the board. And I understand if you're not on board with the current design, and you know, if there's anything you would want to change about it, but you know,
Need a motion?
we would love to see a motion. Yep. Reaffirming the decision that you don't recommend approval of last meeting.
I so moved that we move ahead with the Prohaska Park Master Plan. Take it to the village board.
second.
Motion by Easker, second by Clark. Motion's been approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any more discussion?
No.
Oppose?
No. You know, I'm really not sure I'm really that much opposed. I have concerns.
That's
Fine.
that's
Valid.
absolutely fine. That's why we're here.
Valid.
We need multiple opinions on everything. That's why we have a committee that helps make these.
I mean, it's
decisions.
just staffing is more my, you know, my concerns.
And that's why this is a, you know, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, if you look at the corp, you know, gives your ranges on when you would want to do improvements. If you look at the corp, this is no different, you know,
Still have to say motion passed.
sorry.
We're good then?
When is this something you're going to be going forward with on grants and such? If the board approves it?
The board approves to help fund it. You know, because most of our grants availability, state or federal, is 50/50 match. So if we budget 200 and we'd be eligible for another 200, you'd have 400,000.
Well, I'm just thinking if you could at least get some trails in.
Yeah, I
there.
wish-
Well, I think the trails is something we can do for minimal cost. It's literally going out there with our flair or, you know, a brush hog and just brushing the trails.
mean,
and
I
you
would
could-
really
You can
like
start,
to
you can
see
start
it
using them
getting
right away.
used. You
Okay,
can start walking them right away.
I
So,
mean, I'd like to
We
see
should
it
do
getting
that.
used, even if we don't get all the amenities.
Right.
we could work on doing a posting that would say
Yeah.
that you could use it, but here's where to park and,
yeah.
yeah, those kinds of things.
Like the weekly newsletter that's sent out?
Yeah.
Or the wires?
Mhm.
Where there's sinkholes.
Yeah.
You might not have a truck with you.
Okay, so, future items, number 8, possibly, not having a December 2023 meeting this fall on
It
December
falls,
8th.
it falls on.
Oh, it falls, I'm sorry.
So I kind of figured we would not have a
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh, geez.
So next meeting would be January 22nd, 2024.
Still in town.
And number 9, any topics for future meetings? Maybe who we reach out to for fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're almost 2 months out from our next meeting, so there'll be a lot coming up, and especially as we prepare for next year. Right away. Plan on working on the, which I didn't put on there, but the proposal for the curbing for the playgrounds.
Oh, okay.
So that was not part of the contract that we talked about, and we have to do the concrete curbing separate. So putting together a request for proposals for the curbing for all 7 of the structures. And getting that out, just because we know that projects for next year will get booked up fast. Make sure that we have somebody on board to do that for next year. So, expect to see that. And there'll be some other items for the aquatic center and for CIP items for next year.
And maybe figure out when we can have a meeting with baseball, hockey group. and
Fundraising meeting.
Let them give us some ideas as to where we can go out with our.
Yeah, present the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know they're already.
They're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just need something concrete.
But it's really surprising how fast it goes that, you think, oh, we got until, before you know it, it's spring.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't quite go that fast, but winter never goes
No.
that fast.
Trust me, it goes too fast. We're starting to sell pool passes on Fridays. Mhm.
For Christmas
Yeah.
presents.
December 1st. I wanted to at least end the pool season before we start talking about next season.
Yeah, speaking of maintenance. Okay, so number 10, remarks from staff.
I did have a report in the packet, that's why that's highlighted. You also, board members received it last board packet. So, I mean, I did bring it up during the prospect discussion, but we are on board with opening the gate. And just maybe throwing out garbage cans, barricades out there and
Yeah, I was gonna
trying
say,
to
make
limit
sure
their
that,
access a little bit
and nobody goes beyond where they are.
where the road base
Sinkholes,
is.
yeah.
So they may go past it anyways, but we at least warned them.
And get it, bring in a record, tear it all up.
I feel like I need to go get some snowshoes.
Yeah, that's a neat area.
I brought my fat
probably.
tire, so I'm.
You brought what?
My fat tire bike up, so.
Oh, nice.
So that'd be a nice area for snow.
Have you been out there yet? Oh, you're in for a treat.
So now you got my mind all spinning, because I'm like, well, maybe we should brush it yet this fall, winter, and then we could groom it when we're grooming the other trails this winter. I'm like,
Might be an idea.
yeah, we'll see what the weather does.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of snow and get the crew out there. No,
Yeah, that's how we got the entry road put in at Costco was done during the winter. We had a good weather year that one year, and they put in at least a quarter mile plus of road up.
Yeah.
So,
I mean that, why not?
well, it is El Nino, right? It's gonna be a warm winter, less snow.
Warm and dry.
Yes. So you never know.
I mean,
After
that would be
today.
a fun,
I could say it was dry.
Yeah, some
Mhm.
winter, I mean, like I said, to me, that would
I
be
got
an
the
ideal
static.
snowshoe area.
Yep, yep, and there is some pre-existing paths that could be probably just mowed. And have a couple roads ready, so that's all I had. Yes,
I got nothing.
Remarks from committee members, announcements. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn Parks and Rec
So
meeting?
moved.
Motion by Easker,
Second.
second by Clark. All in favor, say aye.
Right.
More in discussion, opposed? Parks and Rec meeting is now adjourned.
I've never heard anybody opposed to ending the meeting.